Zakir Naik is asked the question about cousin marriage. He's asked, why is it allowed in Islam when it's harmful? Welcome to my channel. I'm your friendly neighborhood ex-Muslim Abdullah Samir, bringing you a response to our favorite Imam, Dr. Zakir Naik. He also discusses eating meat, which I will address at the end.
Um, yeah, my name is Rahul. I am a telecoms engineer working in Dubai since 2002. I want to ask a few questions. Coming from my background, I think religion is something that following that, you're safe from having problems in your life. Yeah. My first question is, I recently read a report by a doctor saying that because of marriages in first cousins in Islam, it leads to a higher probability of the fetuses being born as handicaps. Yeah, it increases the probability of the babies born without hands or without legs. So if it was something that could potentially cause harm, it should not have been allowed in Islam. Another point I would like to add to the same question is, recently I suffered a little bit of a BP, and I went to the doctor, and the first thing he said to me is that stop eating red meat, which is again allowed in Islam. So I would think that if these things could be harmful to the human body, these should not have been allowed by who has created us. So if you can clarify me on that.
The reason I want to respond to Dr. Naik is to remove the veil of invincibility he has. He is seen by some Muslims as some undefeatable opponent of those against Islam. But when you listen carefully, you'll see how weak his arguments are. I'm going to show you this now.
The brothers asked two questions. The first question that is talking about consanguineous marriages. Consanguineous marriages means marriage between close relatives. In English, it's called as consanguineous marriages. And in consanguineous marriages, medical science tells us today, there are high chances of genetic problems. And I do agree with the brother. So why does Islam permit that?
Yes.
It's clearly mentioned in the Quran in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 22 to 24, the woman who you can marry and the woman who you cannot marry is mentioned there. Amongst them, it's clearly mentioned you cannot marry your sister and a lady cannot marry the brother. It's mentioned. Neither the father, neither the mother. You cannot marry the brother of your father, the ladies, and you cannot marry the sister of your father. That means the important close relatives are mentioned in the Quran. Brother, sister cannot marry, son and mother, father and daughter, paternal uncle, maternal uncle can't marry.
At this point, we really don't need Islam to tell us not to marry our aunties or our daughters. Thank you for the beautiful wisdom, Allah. You might wonder, what stops you from sleeping with your family members under atheism? Well, the same thing that stops most normal humans. We've evolved these instincts over millions of years. None of us have such desires unless we're messed up. And those same messed up people will exist in the Muslim community too. They exist in all communities.
But as far as first cousins are concerned, Islam does give permission. Now, as far as consanguineous marriages are concerned, the maximum problem comes when you marry your direct blood brother and sister. Consanguineous marriage. Even if you marry your direct father, daughter, mother and son, or your uncle, the chances are also there if you marry your first cousin, but negligible, very negligible.
It seems that marrying your cousin once is actually not a huge risk. A New York Times article in 2002 stated, few risks seen to the children of first cousins. Marrying your first cousin adds the risk of serious problem by 1.7 to 2.8%, and the risk is not enough to discourage this.
That's not what the report said. The report said that because of marriages in first cousins, not your brothers and sisters, it leads to this problem. And it was from a doctor. It was published in Gulf News as well, actually.
Brother, let me complete. Even I am a doctor.
Ah, okay.
Fine. Even I am a medical doctor.
Yeah.
It means medical doctor with that doctor.
Yeah.
Brother flexes his medical doctor title. Zakir Naik, medical doctor extraordinaire. I am a doctor, you must listen to me.
The chances in direct relatives are very high.
Yeah.
If a sister and brother marry, the chances are very high.
Yeah.
If a father and daughter are very high. You have read only one report, you haven't read the other report.
Yeah.
So you only read Gulf News, I read medical books. So Gulf News is better or medical books is, brother?
Right.
Which
So
is
your
better?
point is marrying in first cousins,
Is
the chances of getting
lesser
problem is negligible.
as compared to brother and sister.
As compared to,
Yes,
as compared to, yeah.
yes, compared to.
But still there is a...
Brother, will you let me complete my answer or?
Sorry, yeah, please.
So you have more faith in Gulf News?
No, no, not really. I'm here to find the truth.
Truth, that's right. So what you realize that consanguineous marriage, and I agreed with you. I didn't say it's not there.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to beat around the bush. But compared, it is negligible compared to direct blood brother and sister.
Why is he comparing marrying cousins to marrying your daughter? That's like saying smoking is bad, but doing cocaine is even worse.
Agree that there are medical genetic problems in various ways.
Oh, there are problems, Zakir Naik? Interesting.
But this report is there when you have continuously generation after generation. And our beloved Prophet, that according to Dr. Ahmad Sakari says, the Prophet said, do not marry against first cousins generation after generation. If you do it once or twice, it is no problem.
This is the first time I've ever heard such a hadith saying this, so I decided to fact check the good doctor. I looked it up and I found the following question where lo and behold someone else asked for the reference for this exact hadith that Zakir Naik mentioned. Sheikh, I saw a YouTube video of Dr. Zakir Naik regarding consanguineous marriage where he quoted Dr. Ahmed Sakara saying, our beloved Prophet said, do not marry generation after generation among first cousins. Sheikh, I want to know whether the hadith is authentic or not. Thank you very much. Answer. We have not come across any scholar who has mentioned the hadith that you have asked in your question. However, some scholars stated that the hadith that are mentioned about the prohibition of marrying among relatives are not authentic. On the Seeker's Guidance website, they mentioned the same thing. Regarding these and similar narrations, the 7th century hadith specialist Ibn Salah said, I found no reliable basis for them. Many eminent hadith masters mentioned his statement and concurred, such as Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Ibn Mulaqin, and others. It's sad that Zakir Naik is straight up lying here. He admitted there's a problem with the repeated cousin marriage, and now he's inventing hadith in order to save the religion from this flaw. Yet they accuse us opponents of Islam of using weak hadith. Here we have a supposed scholar of Islam whose one job it is to know the religion using made-up hadith to defend it.
Yet, even if you marry not cousins also, you can get a problem. Do you know that?
Yeah, that.
So that doesn't mean that you stop marriage only.
Then he says, even if you don't marry your cousins, you can have genetic issues in your children? This is embarrassingly bad logic. First he said, it's not as bad as sleeping with your direct children or parents. Then he now says you can still get issues even without marrying your cousins? This is getting extremely stupid now. Yes, we know there's a small risk, but marrying your cousin repeatedly increases the risk substantially and is completely preventable suffering. This can have devastating effects on your children's lives. We're talking about something that's completely avoidable. Look, if you knew you could avoid your child having a genetic disease that they would suffer with for the rest of their lives, would you avoid it? Or would you risk the future for no good reason? This is something we now understand but was not understood back then. Lives can be altered and harmed through cousin marriage, yet it still continues in large numbers in certain Muslim communities. A doctor, not Zakir Naik, says smoking causes cancer. Dr. Zakir Naik says, but brother, even if you don't smoke, you can get cancer. So what now? Should we all stop smoking?
Right, so there is a hadith which says that do not do it generation after generation.
Yes, but otherwise, generally there's no problem.
Right.
Fine?
Okay.
So coming to your second question.
Yeah.
You went to a doctor and you said you had high BP.
Yes.
Doctor said you have red meat.
Yes.
So why does Islam allow red meat?
Yes.
You know, my friend went to a doctor and doctor said you have diabetes, don't have sugar. Brother, why do you have sugar?
Right.
Why? Don't have sugar. My friend went to a doctor, doctor said you have diabetes, don't have sugar. Brother, do you have sugar?
Yes, of course.
Why you have sugar? Stop having sugar.
Yeah, but we can live on vegetables, easily possible.
Can you live without having sugar? Can you live without having sugar? Even vegetarians have sugar, brother.
Yeah.
Are you educated?
Yeah.
MashaAllah. The problem is that person had a problem with his pancreas.
Yes.
In the pancreas, there are islets of Langerhans which break down the sugar. Because my friend had a problem in the pancreas, he could not break down the sugar. Therefore, the doctor said, don't have sugar.
Right.
If you have some problem of red meat, you should not have red meat, others can have red meat.
Right. Yeah.
The Quran says, a general statement, Quran says, eat what is halal and tayyib for you. There's a verse in the Quran, eat what is halal and tayyib for you. For a person suffering from diabetes, sugar is not tayyib. So according to the Quran, a person having diabetes should have less sugar. It's a general statement. Eat what is halal and tayyib for you. That means certain things which is good for others may not be good for you. But there are certain things which are bad for everyone. Alcohol. Alcohol is bad for everyone. It is prohibited for everyone. Pork is bad for everyone. Therefore, pork has been prohibited for everyone. What do you realize? Certain food, because of the way your metabolism is made, because it's a problem for you, doesn't mean that everyone should abstain from it. Hope that answers the question.
The problem with what Dr. Naik said is this. Red meat is bad, so is sugar, so is alcohol. Societies have always had to struggle with the balance between individual liberty and state involvement in saving people from themselves. Some would argue banning alcohol is a good idea. Some would say it's an individual's own choice if they want to drink. Society as a whole has to judge what the right balance is. A complete ban on pork, on the other hand, doesn't make a lot of sense at all. Domesticated meat like pork is no worse for you than eating cow or chicken. All forms of meat have similar health issues. There's no good reason why pork should be banned and beef should be allowed. The argument that pigs eat their own poop is just silly. If you go on a modern pig farm, the pigs are fed good food. They don't eat poop. And by the way, even chickens eat their own poop, okay? If you leave a chicken alone, you will see it'll eat its own poop as well as the seeds. That's just what animals do. That's just how they are. So this is not an argument against not eating it. I, for one, lean ethically towards veganism. I think it's morally superior, better for our health, and safer for the planet. If you can survive without eating meat, I think we should do better to do so. I still eat meat, but I'm looking forward to modern meatless alternatives. Interestingly, eating wild meat is more risky than eating pork. Wild animals may have viruses that are not known to humans, and there's an additional risk in being in close contact with them. We are now in the middle of a global health crisis that was most likely caused by the consumption of bush meat at a Chinese wet food market. There's nothing in Islam that would have prevented this global health crisis because Islam allows you to eat most meat, that one cannot eat that which is off-putting, i.e. nasty. There's a difference of opinion among the scholars as to what constitutes off-putting, which there is no room to discuss here. It's very odd indeed to have such a subjective rule like this. Are locusts disgusting? Some would say yes, but some cultures eat locusts. They are perfectly healthy and safe. In fact, insects might be the next best form of protein for a modern world. Muhammad never even taught his followers to use soap or to make sure meat is cooked fully. Nothing at all. Just ritual sacrifice to Allah. Because apparently Allah is jealous that we humans slaughter in any other god's name. The worldwide Hajj that happens every year causes so much killing in such a short amount of time that many Muslim cities have blood flowing in the streets. Not what I would call ideal, not what I would call hygienic. But then again, religion was never about common sense. It was never about cleanliness. It was about control and submission, to submit to Muhammad. Everything about Islam, when you put it in perspective, falls in line with ancient pagan practices. But modern Muslims have reinterpreted it to be something totally different. Halal now means ethical, but it doesn't. It's simply a ritual animal sacrifice. That's all. It's no healthier whatsoever. The meat is indistinguishable in taste from non-halal. I know, I've had both. You can't tell the difference. Thanks for watching. I hope it's clear now that Dr. Zakir Naik really doesn't have a good argument to defend himself against Islam allowing cousin marriage. He really doesn't. He just didn't know what to say, and he was just comparing it to other things and saying, oh, well, that's worse and that's worse. And you can still have issues even if you don't do cousin marriage, and then making up a hadith in order to defend Islam, because Islam does actually have a problem here. If you're new here, please subscribe and keep notified for more such videos from your friendly neighborhood ex-Muslim Abdullah Samir. And consider donating to support my work. Details are below. Thanks for watching. This is Abdullah Samir, signing out.